Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church of Northboro, First Parish. We are a little green church for our environmental commitment, a pink church because of our openness and advocacy for the LGBTQ community, a blue church because we're concerned about water. Wrote this thing. We're a welcoming community. My name is Chris Woodcock. I'll be the worship assistant and leading the worship today. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage people to turn their ringers on the cell phone, turn on your favorite video game, take that call from your bestie. Cell phones are going off in church, harkens us back to the sound of church bells on Sunday. Said no one ever. Please turn yours off, or at least put them on silent for now. I don't know if there's any announcements of anything that anybody has here today. I don't see anybody jumping up to, oh, Celia is jumping up to say something. Yes, we do. I don't know if I have this on.
Hi, I just remembered right now. Caroline McDonald called me up and said, hey, what are you doing with your old cloth face masks? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, why don't we put them all together and make something? So we are collecting old cloth face masks. So if you have any, can you give them to us, leave them here in the back of the church, or give them to either Caroline or myself, and then we'll get people who are interested together to have some fun and create something interesting. Who knows what will emerge?
Thanks, Celia. I don't see any newcomers. I don't know if there's any on the screen here, if there are any on the screen, or anybody who listens afterwards on this on a video. Welcome. We hope to see you. Come to our church and meet us. With that, I'm going to have everybody ask you all to greet your neighbors, wave to the people on Facebook. Andrew, come on up here and help me light the chalice. This is in remembrance and in hope by Dale Hudson wrote this. This is a house of reflection and contemplation, of joy and sorrow, friendship, sharing, and laughter. We light this chalice in remembrance of what have been and in the hope of what may become. And with that, we have Amazing Grace. Jeff? Oh, okay.
shodzin lo ishte aniltie.
Thanks so much, Shawnadine and Jeff. Before we get going, I have to thank Shawnadine, Jeff, Linda, Pete, who've done so much in helping pull this together. It was an idea I had about a year or so ago, and it took a lot of work. It exploded, and the amount of work they put in, and the one person who's probably put in more than anybody, you can't see, Stephanie in the Belfry, who, yeah. Stephanie took a whole bunch of clips, and they were uneditable, and somehow edited them, and we'll get to see them. And Stephanie, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you've done to help make this happen. Anyways, while traveling in Western Canada and the Yukon last summer, we noticed there were signs of First Nation or Native land acknowledgements everywhere we went. They explained the history of the land, the nations that had occupied the lands. All of the tour guides that we had made a point of acknowledging the peoples who had been the stewards of the lands that we were on. This acknowledgement of the First Nations got me wondering about the nations that had occupied the land here in Northboro. I realized I knew nothing about the tribes. I didn't even really know what tribes had been here. I'd heard little bits, but it was a mystery to me. Today, we would like to begin a process of recognizing and understanding the native tribes that lived on these lands. We hope we may get our congregation more interested in the history of these lands, how we might want to recognize them, and what we, as a congregation, may wish to do going forward. I'll share the origins of the Nipmuc tribe, their way of life, their interactions with European settlers, the religious conversion efforts that altered their fate, and where they stand today. This was Nipmuc land. The Nipmuc people are an indigenous tribe originally from the northeastern part of America, specifically the areas now called Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Their homeland extended from the southern shores of Massachusetts around Worcester and Franklin counties in central Massachusetts and even into parts of northeastern Connecticut. The word Nipmuc comes from a term in their language meaning the freshwater people, or the people of still waters, referring to the many rivers, lakes, and streams in this region. The Nipmuc were a part of the larger Algonquin family, a group that included many tribes of the Northeast, such as the Pequot, Wampanoag, and Narragansett. The Nipmucs were deeply connected to the land, living in harmony with forests, rivers, and wetlands of the region. Their societies were organized into villages, each led by a Szechuan or a chief. The Nipmuc were primarily hunter-gatherers supplemented by agriculture. They grew crops such as corns, beans, and squash, the three sisters that we know. Those were staples of their diet. In addition to their agricultural pursuits, the Nipmuc relied on the abundant resources of the environment around us. They hunted deer, elk, small game, fished the rivers, gathered wild plants. Their way of life was sustainable, with strong social bonds that centered around kinship, cooperation, and respect for the natural world. The Nipmuc interacted with several neighboring tribes. To the east were the Wampanoag, known for their early interactions with the Pilgrims, Plymouth Rock. We've all heard that story. We'll hear more. To the south were the Pequot and the Narragansett tribes, who were mostly centralized and had stronger political and military structures. And in the west bordered the Mohawk and other Iroquois nations. These tribes engaged in trade, diplomacy, and sometimes, oftentimes too many, conflict. But they also shared many cultural traits, such as language, spiritual practices, and social structures. In the 1600s, As European settlers began to arrive along the East Coast, the Nipmuc and other tribes found themselves at the crossroads of intense cultural and environmental change. One of the turning points in the history of the Nipmuc came with the arrival of Christian missionaries, especially the Puritans, who were particularly active in this region. The Puritans had a strong desire to convert native peoples to Christianity. They viewed indigenous spiritual practices as a threat to their own religious order and sought to establish missions among the various tribes. One missionary named John Eliot, known as the Apostle to the Indians, played a key role in bringing Christianity to the Nipmuc. He was a remarkable man who translated the Bible into Algonquin tongue and then educated some of the Indians to understand English and to read in their own language to other uneducated Indians from his translations. Eliot preached to the Nipmuc people, and many converted to Christianity. He established praying towns. I think there were 7 of them amongst the Nipmuc tribe, Grafton being one of them. He established these praying towns as settlements where natives converted in a European style, attempting to assimilate into the colonial way of life. These praying towns, as they were called, were essentially tools for assimilation, where the Nipmuc were pressured to adopt Christianity, European farming practices, and Western social structures. While many did convert, this process was far from peaceful or voluntary. The colonists viewed the Nipmuc and other tribes with suspicion, seeing them as both a resource to be Christianized and a potential threat to their knowledge of the land and their independence. Over time, this forced assimilation and loss of cultural identity led to divisions within the Nipmuc society. By the late 1600s, tension between the native tribes and the European settlers had escalated. During King Philip's War, which is about 1675, 1676, that time period, the Nipmuc were involved in the larger conflict between the native tribes of southern New England and the English settlers. So you've got the native tribes on one hand, the English settlers on the other. The war was named after the Wampanoag leader Metacom, called King Philip. It saw widespread devastation among the indigenous communities. Many Nipmuc were drawn into the conflict, fighting alongside other tribes against the colonists. However, the war led to significant losses for the Nipmuc and many other tribes. The aftermath of King Philip's War was devastating for the Nipmuc. Many were killed, displaced, or sold into slavery. Some survivors were forced onto reservations, and their land was taken by the colonists. By the 1700s, a mere 25 years after the war, the tribe was fractured. Their numbers greatly diminished, their cultural practices increasingly under threat from colonial encroachment. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Nipmuc faced increasing pressures. Their land was continuously encroached upon. Their population dwindled due to disease, war, and displacement, and their way of life was severely disrupted. The assimilation efforts of the missionaries, combined with the aggressive expansion of the European settlers, further eroded the tribe's distinct identity. By the 19th century, the Nipmuc had been largely absorbed into other communities, and their numbers were so small that their distinct identity as a tribe was often not even recognized. They were considered invisible by many colonial authorities, and their historic and cultural contributions to the region were nearly forgotten. In more modern times, the Nipmuc people have made efforts to revitalize their culture and reclaim their identity. They were not officially recognized by the official government as a tribe in the same way other First Nations have. However, they were recognized in Massachusetts in 1976 by Governor Michael Dukakis. Today, the Hassanamisko Nipmuc Band is the sole state-recognized tribe in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Hassanamisko Nipmuc Band owns 3.5 acres of reservation land in Grafton, Massachusetts. There's often, by the way, ceremonies there. There was one last weekend celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, and they often have other celebrations around here. And it's an interesting place, and it's nearby in Grafton. Although the tribe was a political entity, was effectively wiped out due to colonization, the Nipmuc people endure, both in terms of their historic legacy and their ongoing cultural resurgence. The history of the Nipmuc people, like that of many other American Native tribes, is a story of resilience in the face of profound adversity. From their vibrant pre-colonial life as a thriving people who lived in harmony with nature, with their environment, to their struggle against the European settlers, the Nipmuc reflect the broader narrative of indigenous people in North America. Though much of their original way of life was lost due to the twin forces of colonization and forced religious conversion, the Nipmuc, like many tribes, continue to rebuild their identity, and their history remains an essential part of the cultural landscape of New England. The lessons of their history are important for all of us, reminding us of the need to recognize and honor the legacies of these indigenous peoples, not just through acts of legislation, but in the ways we engage with and understand the history of their life. We now have a song by Spotted Crow Man.
It's a real honor to be a part of this. And just to keep the music going a little bit, I wanted to open up again with another song, and this time with our traditional rattle song, which we call sometimes referred to as longhouse songs. So I'm going to share this song here. Rattle songs in the Nipmuc language. Yahweh, 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 na. We ya na, we ya na, we ya. Hayana, we ya na, we na. We ya na, we ya ne ya. Hayana, we ya na, we ya. Haya, we ya na, we na. Kiti yang yu wichi nipi ya we ya. Kiti yang nipi chi ne no one. Chemoche monake, chemoche monake, chemoche monake, ya hey ya, ya hey ya hey ya hey ya. Kiti yang nuchi nipi ya we ya, nipi kiti yang nuchi ne no one. Chemoche monake, chemoche monake, chemoche monake, ya hey ya. Yahweh, 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 Yah. 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 Yahweh, 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 Yah. Kiti yang nuwachi nipi Yahweh, Yah. Nipi kiti yang nuwachi nenawan. Chemoche monake, chemoche monake, chemoche monake, Yahweh, Yah. At the bottom. Thank you, thank you. I wanted to start off with that song. Let me get a drink here. This is a song that we would share. As I said earlier, I'm in part of my traditional homeland here in the Quinnebog watershed, and so the rivers and the ocean, where our highways, our places of trade, are familiar passageways to really share, connect, nourish, and really live our fullest experiences of who we are as a people. However, unfortunately, through the dams and industrial revolution, a lot of that was lost, but I don't have time to get into all that conversation today. But it's important to share this song because it is about the story that we share when we sing these songs. And by the way, the words are in Nipmuc, and the translations are, we live for the water lived for us. Paddle strong, human beings, paddle strong. And the translation in English would sometimes be water is life. And so water was acknowledged as a living being and as a relative that we would share, because we are living for the water and the water is living for us. And we're taught that if you take care of these things, the trees here, the birds, and all the different living things around us, and they'll
an awful lot of audio, video stuff, and as I said earlier, it wasn't easy trying to condense it into a service like this. And again, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I also
Shawnee
want to say that I know Larry personally, and so it's really great to hear his voice because I haven't talked to him in person in a while. But he is one of the people that I go to understand about Nipmuc people, and he's very respected both locally and in the state as a Nipmuc ambassador. And if you want to listen to more of what he's talking about, I think we share the link either in the prospectus or something like that. So there's a whole 59-minute video about the perspective of the Nipmuc people in that video, if you want to hear the rest of it.
Anyways, joys and sorrows. The sharing of personal joys and sorrows is a ritual of connection observed in some of our faith communities. It is a time to Thank you. We're going to try something a little bit different here, and we're changing things around. We'd originally have a 4-part responsive reading. We were going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, but having Lou and I just doing a reading back and forth didn't seem like. You want to do that, Lou? No, we'll change it around. We'll do. Let's say this side. And you three over here will be the first group. You'll be the odd group. I'll read and you can respond. And then the even numbers on here, it says congregation group 2, can be the middle ones on this side. I think that's about even. Celia, Andrew, you can decide which ones you want to be with. So I'll read something, we'll get a response. Then Pete will do it, we'll do a response, and we'll go back and forth, and then we'll end up with Shawnee at the end. And you have a mic, Pete, so I'll go from here. So Pete and I each have a microphone. This is the people, okay, so you 5, you 3, maybe Jeff too, if you want to join us. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people.
Now our minds are one. We are all thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now all minds are one.
The waters. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst, providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greeting and thanks to the Spirit of water.
Now our minds are one. The fish. We turn our minds to all the fish life in the water. They were instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves to us as food. We are grateful that we can still find pure water. So we turn now to the fish and send our greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one.
The plants. Now we turn toward the vast fields of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain many life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come. Now our minds are one.
The food plants. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them too. We gather all the plant foods together as one and send them as greetings of thanks. Now our minds are one.
The medicine herbs. Now we turn to all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy they are still among us, those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and to the keepers of the medicines.
Now our minds are one. The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give us their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forests. We are glad they are still here, and we hope it will always be so. Now our minds are one.
The trees. We now turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with few, broody and useful things. Many people of the world use the tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree life.
Now our minds are one. The birds. We put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who move and fly about over our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one.
The four winds. We are all thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help us to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bring us messages and give us strength. With one mind, we send our greeting and thanks to the four winds.
Now our minds are one. The thunderers. Now we turn to the west, where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring with them the water that renews life. We are thankful that they keep those evil things made by wisers underground. We bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to our grandfathers, the thunderers. Our minds are one.
The sun. We now send greetings and thanks to our eldest brother, the sun. Each day, without fail, he travels the sky from east to west, bringing the light of new day. He is the source of all the fires of life. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our brother, the sun.
Now our minds are one. Grandmother Moon. We put our minds together to give thanks to our oldest grandmother, the moon, who lights the nighttime sky. She is the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of the ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time, and it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children here on earth. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our grandmother, the moon. Now our minds are one.
The stars. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them in the night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bring dew to the garden and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars.
Now our minds are one. The enlightened teachers. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we're instructed to live as people. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers.
Now our minds are one.
Creator. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator.
Now our minds are one. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one.
Thank you. You guys did all great. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Linda, for finding this. Putting this together, there was all sorts of different resources and help from people like that, and this is something Linda had found, and it just really struck me, the calling out all of those things in our environment and nature that are so important to us and giving thanks to them. So again, thank you, Linda. Next we have, the choir is singing us a hymn. This will be exciting.
Great Law of Peace by Joanne Shenandoah. Stephanie, were you able to get that going?
Showing on the screen.
Okay, great.
The video.
Yeah, I think we need the video.
Darshan Highway Gawe Yanaslago Sanako Deki O Nato Darshan Highway Gawe Yanaslago Sanako Deki Da highway. Go way on a sluggo. Sana go dixie. Oh, net, oh, net, oh. Daughter, shun it highway. Go way on a sluggo. Sana go dead key. Oh, net, oh, net, oh. Daughter, shun it highway. Go way on a sluggo. Sana go dead key. Oh, net, oh, net, Daughter, shun it highway. Go way on a sluggo. Sana go dixie. Oh, net, oh, net, oh. Daughter, shun it highway. Go way on a sluggo. Sana go dead key. Oh, net, oh, net,
We'll now take the offering. Our tradition is to have a half plate, donate half of the offering to a different cause. This month, our half plate is going to the mission of the Nipmuc Indian Development Corporation. Their mission is to assist in the revitalization of the Nipmuc Indian community through the promotion and provision of culturally appropriate community and economic development programs. The NIDC is a not-for-profit Massachusetts corporation, 501c3 designation. It was created in 1999 to serve the needs of the Nipmuc community. The NIDC intends to promote and broaden the cultural, economic, educational, and social levels of tribal members and their neighbors living within and outside our homelands. Their goals include to foster community-wide interest and participation in the issues of the Nipmuc community, strengthening the cohesiveness and stability of the tribe, to promote opportunities for tribal members to achieve economic self-sufficiency through the development of education, employment, job training, small business development, and affordable housing programs, to preserve, maintain, and provide Nipmuc social, cultural, and educational program to our children, elders, and families in the greater community. The offering will now be greatly received.
And Stephanie, if you could turn on the Hawk Henry's Nipmuc. Okay, great. So in preparing for the service, as Amazing Grace says, there were many trials, toils, and pains that I suffered through. So I'm just glad that we got here today. Thank you everyone for coming. But we made it. So as I thought about this, I'm a professor in normal life, so it's a bad practice to just talk at people. So I'm going to try to engage a little bit here. My first time being a minister, so hopefully I can get to the lecturing part. So my first question was, if just think in your mind, how many Native American ceremonies have you attended in your lifetime? And just keep that to yourself. And then my next question is, how many Unitarian Universalist churches do you know of on any Native American reservation? And then my next question is, how many spiritual tribal events have you been to, such as a powwow, within the last 5 years? Okay, and then my last question is, how many Native Americans do you know personally, besides me, that you talk to in a daily life, that you engage in? Okay, so these questions, usually the answer is 0 for most people I talk to, maybe 1, maybe 2. And the reason for that is because Native Americans are largely unseen in American culture, and we're largely forgotten in a sense, but also it's a useful forgetfulness. To say it's forgetful is a passive and kind way to say that, as Chris had mentioned, we were eliminated. It was a very intentional process. And so my purpose here is to sort of introduce you to my culture, because I don't feel comfortable speaking about the Nipmuc tribe specifically and the peoples here. I feel that at some point, I would like somebody such as Larry or another tribal member to come here and talk to you about what they do, because to me, as a Navajo person, that's a nation-to-nation, what we call nation-to-nation discussion. And that means that it's a Native person talking to another Native person without a white person intervening. So that's important to us, because we have to acknowledge each other and lift each other up as Native people, as well as speaking to other groups, such as the outside groups, which are all other cultures that came to this land later. And so for me, the later discussion we have is going to go into that a little bit, about how can we reach out to the local people here, and where do we feel comfortable with that sort of discussion. Okay, so that's my little introduction on just the general thoughts of what I'm going to move towards and what we should be moving towards as a congregation. It's an exciting thought for me, because it brings much more of who I am. And also, when I moved here, it was very important to me that I acknowledge the people here and that I ask their permission to be here. And so that's my final thought for you, is have you talked to the local people and said, hey, do you want me here? Like, what do you think about me living on your land? And I did that, and I got their permission, and I went to ceremony with them and asked them for their blessing to be here, because it's not right for me as a Navajo person to go to somebody else's land uninvited. So I always do that at every place I live, and I think that that's also an important practice as somebody who's outside the culture to think about. Okay, so I have a little introduction, and this is called Walking the Road Between Many Worlds. So, Ya'e, which means hello. Shandin Biget Yanishye, that means my name is Shanadin Bigay. Kintlachini E Nishle Do Tratnazani Bashishtin. That means I am Red House clan, born for Tango people. Ado Tebethlishin E Dashiche Do Jidedeshkishni E Dashinale. Moreover, my mother's father's clan is Black Sheep, and my father's clan is Split Rock between Gap clan. Kootego E Atzan Nishle, I am female. Gallup, New Mexico de Yesinisha, my hometown is Gallup, New Mexico. Fort Defiance, Arizona de Dishche, and I was born in Fort Defiance, Arizona. Ayer, Massachusetts, Deshagun, I live in Ayer, Massachusetts. Naki, Nahaigo, Adishagun, I have lived there for 2 years. Well, yeah, that's right. Ado, Bunker Hill Community College, D. Inishtra, Ade Chemistry Bad Inishtra, although I attend Bunker Hill Community College, and chemistry is my field of study. Bunker Hill Community College, Bananish. I work for Bunker Hill Community College. And so this is the way that Navajos introduce themselves to new friends and also to each other in our own language. And it's also how I greet you today in my own language, representing my own identity outside of the white culture. So being a Native American, I'm adept at walking the road between my many worlds. There's the Navajo, non-Navajo worlds, there's the spiritual, the UU world, and I try to take ideas from each of those worlds and enrich the other worlds. And so this road has taken me many places and brought me to the realization that I'm able to share my growth in both spiritual paths. So now I will read to you from the Leading the Way, Wisdom of the Navajo People article, and it's called Connecting with Your Spirituality. A traditional universal center. It is always important to think positively about yourself. One way to do this is to connect with your beginnings. Think back to when you were born and why you came into this world. Reminds you that you are created in a holy way. You are a child of early dawn. A child of early dawn, you have been given three things: the ability to learn, the authority to pray, and you can accomplish what you need to do in life because the stage was set for you to pray at birth. The ability to receive communication from Diyin Dene. Your inner spirit tells you what you need, and it tells you when something is wrong. It speaks to your conscious. Early Dawn's children. Early Dawn had 12 children. Medicine people refers to these children as the one that sits for a name and the one that waits for a name. The children come in pairs, and they are associated with 6 sacred mountains. Dokije Nalyo Aishki, the boy that returns with 1 turquoise. Nagla La Ayo Alket, the girl that returns with 1 corn kernel. And this is associated with Sisnajine, which is the east. Nagla Egi, Do Joli Ashki, white round corn boy. Nada Altsoe, de Jol Atid, round corn girl, associated with Sodzil, which is in the south. Yode Ashki, material valuables of life boy. Nekle At-Ed, intrinsic values of life girl. And these are associated with the Osklin in the west. Nada Agi Ashki, white corn boy. Nada Altos Et-Id, yellow corn girl. And these are associated with Debe Nitza in the north. Tradin Ashki, pollen boy. And Anilkine Alt-Ed, which is ripener girl. And these are associated with Zil Nado Litli. Bitzit Dahoti, body has moisture, no gender is attached. And Bitae Dahoti, leaf has moisture associated with Cho'ili. These 12 children were used as a template to create mankind. The Diyin Dine, which is like our holy people, had been wondering what mankind should look like. One Diyin Dine offered, maybe they should look like Yika bin al-Chine. The children should be beautiful. They're a good template for mankind. And so there's much more to read here, but because the time is moving, I'm going to put a stop there. But these are a nice magazine to look at if you're interested in learning more specifically about the Navajo people. And again, I feel comfortable talking about the Navajo people. I don't want to talk about the Nipmuc people yet because I feel that they should discuss themselves and they should tell you in their way who they are and how they would say their words. So next I'll read 2 poems by Joy Harjo, and this book is called An American Sunrise. And so I was asked by Chris to explain what I thought was hard about being a Native American and what was the struggles. So this is Joy's poem. The Road to Disappearance. The Indians will vanish has been a talk of the older Indians ever since the white people first came to mingle among them. They seem to prophesy that the coming of the white man could not be for their good, and when the step toward their removal to a country to the west was just beginning, it was the older Indians who remarked and talked about themselves, saying, "Now the Indian is now on the road to disappearance." This had reference to their leaving of their ways, their familiar surroundings where their customs were performed, their medicine, their hunting grounds, and their friends. When they had reached their new homes in Indian Territory, their conversations were about their old homes, and they said, "We have started the road that leads to our disappearance, and we are facing the evening of our existence and nearly at the end of the trail that we trod when we were forced to leave our homes in Alabama and Georgia." And she's talking as a Creek person. In time, perhaps our own language will not be used, but that will be after our days. And so the reason I want to sing our songs and sing in Navajo is because I want to say that hasn't happened. Here's the second poem. We were wild then. We emerged from bloody history into the white clothes of pious religion and rules, then sent off to Indian school to learn how to forget our mothers, fathers, and grandparents who loved us. We were still in the embrace of God of the plains, horses of where the sky and the earth meet. Every day was a praise song. Every word and act had import into the meaning of why we are here as spirits, dressed in colored earth. We were wild then, they said, because we spoke a different language, and they would not give our spirits to them. And they thought they tried, but they could not ever remake us. No matter how hard they drilled and forced us, we died over and over again in those stiff desks as our hearts walked home. We sat on the fire escapes outside our dorm rooms on cold winter nights and made plans to escape history. We were wild then. We didn't take well to mind imprisonment. Our dreams could not be confined by the walls of our institutional green and misbegotten bureaucracy. We found alcohol, smoke, and anything else to break through to the other side. Where our visions shivered, there near the hills outside of campus, waiting for us to recover from the sickness of forgetfulness. Some of us did not make it. We carried their bodies far away from the cities and set their spirits free. This moment is for them, gives them nourishment of our love to keep moving toward home. We were wild then. I will always remember that night far south of town where we sat at the bar after our escape. You had gone to war and had become a painter, poet, and singer. I was a poet, mother, and I was learning how to sing. We talked history, heartache, the blues, and what it means to be an artist with nothing to lose because we lost everything here at the edge of America. And so I think a lot of prose that happens around Native Americans is very sad, and it deals with the generational trauma that has occurred. And my hope is through doing these services to start to change that narrative, especially here, because if we don't change it ourselves, then it continues to be these stories that we hear. And we need to create our new story. We need to create a sound and a poem and a song that represents us. So that's my thought about the next step, which is the discussion about the land acknowledgement. I could lecture about this all day, but I will let Pete discuss it because he can keep it short and sweet. And yeah, that's me.
These thoughts on land acknowledgement I got from writings of indigenous people all over New England. First, what is a land acknowledgement? It's a formal statement that recognizes and shows respect for indigenous peoples as the traditional residents and stewards of lands. Why would we do a land acknowledgement? If you're hoping to inspire others to take action to support indigenous communities, you're on the right track. If you're delivering a land acknowledgement out of guilt or because everyone else is doing it, more self-reflection is in order. So how do we prepare for doing a land acknowledgement? First, we need to find out who the indigenous people to whom this land belongs. We need to learn the correct pronunciation for their names, what their history is on this land. And Chris has started this process this morning with his talk. We need to build a relationship with the local indigenous people. We need to ask them how we can help with their efforts to heal their trauma, learn their language, and support their nation. A land acknowledgement is not enough. It's only a starting point. What can we do in the future? As Chris has mentioned, we're just beginning this process. This service has introduced us to Nipmuc history. We plan to work on additional steps over this coming year, including establishing a relationship with the tribe. If anyone is interested in helping with this, please let any one of us know. Thanks.
Thanks, Pete. I don't know if anybody has anything, they have questions or any ideas that they want to offer. If they do, I know it's getting late, but if anybody does, raise your hand, we'll bring you a microphone. If not, a lot to think about from this service. I know in thinking about this and over the last year or so, putting it together, just been so much that's gone through my mind, and I hope we've been able to open up to you ideas, thoughts of what we could do, if we should do anything with land acknowledgement and understanding our past. So with that, I think we will go to our closing hymn. So please rise as you're willing and able for Okay, now we're doing hymn 1073, The Earth is Our Mother. May rise as you're willing and able for hymn 1073. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land.
Far beyond the mountain, far past pristine shores, there's a distant vision where we've not gone before. Ever onward towards the highest heights. Yes, we shall persist to the end.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Please join us next door. Fellowship, coffee, I'm not sure what else is there. People on Zoom, I think